This presentation is on the Yellowstone Caldera and is created and presented by Amanda Davis. This image is of the Roosevelt Arch, which sits at the north entrance of Yellowstone National Park. This arch was dedicated by President Theodore Roosevelt in April of 1903. Over the years, the inscription of the arch has reaffirmed that national parks are not just to be preserved, but also for the enjoyment of all who wish to visit. The Yellowstone Caldera is the largest and most active silicate volcanic system in the world. The size of the caldera is 30 by 45 miles wide. Within Yellowstone's borders, there are over 10,000 hydrothermal features, including geysers, hot springs, mud pots, fumaroles, and terraces. While the Yellowstone Caldera has had 3 major eruptions, the most recent was 640,000 years ago. On March 1st, 1872, the area surrounding the caldera was established as the world's first national park. This area stretches between Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. One of the most recognizable features in Yellowstone are the geysers. This is because a geyser is a hot spring that has an intriguing habit of tossing underground water into the air. Many think a geyser is similar to a pressure cooker. This is because the water deep down in the earth is well above boiling, but the pressure from the water above prevents that boiling. Eventually, enough pressure builds, causing an overflow, which then relieves the pressure on the superheated water below. Once the pressure is released, the superheated water flashes into steam, which explodes through narrow spaces in the rocks and shoots water up into the air. The most well-known and recognizable geyser in Yellowstone is Old Faithful, so named because it erupts the most frequently at 17 to 20 times per day, and each eruption lasts 2 to 5 minutes. Each eruption discharges anywhere from 4 to 8,000 gallons of water, shooting approximately 130 feet into the air. The most predictable geyser in Yellowstone is called Riverside Geyser, but it does not erupt as frequently. Personally, I think the most interesting geyser is Grotto Geyser because it looks like a face. This geyser erupts about every 8 hours, and the eruption can last anywhere from 1.5 hours to 10 hours. Hot springs are very similar to geysers but have no constrictions underground. There's enough room for the water to circulate and cool as it reaches the surface. This convection process prevents the water from reaching the right temperature to be shot into the air. Many hot springs have a variety of colors. This is because different bacteria live in the different temperatures of the water. So, in hot springs like Morning Glory, you can see the different temperatures because you can clearly see the different colors. Morning Glory is unique because it has experienced the most vandalism. Trash thrown in the pool is suspected of clogging the vents, allowing for a slight cooling. This gives the yellow algae a chance to grow in these cooler temperatures, creating that yellow color. Other hot springs might only be one color, but may show some bubbling as it reaches a higher temperature. After visiting the geysers and hot springs in Yellowstone, many walk away wondering why the place smells like rotten eggs. This is because of the small amounts of hydrogen sulfide gas that are given off by the geysers and hot springs. A mud pot occurs in places where microorganisms convert the hydrogen sulfide gas into sulfuric acid. This acid dissolves the surrounding rock into clay, which mixes with the steam and water to form mud. A fumarole is basically a steam vent. These occur in areas where there is not enough water to cause a phenomenon like a geyser or a hot spring. The water that is there comes into contact with hot rocks, which underground, and turns it into steam, which rushes out through the fissures of the surrounding country rock. Terraces are unique because underground water comes into contact with carbon dioxide. Once the carbon dioxide makes contact with water, it dissolves and creates a weak carbonic acid solution that eats away at the limestone formations that lie underneath the Earth's surface. Once in open air, the carbon dioxide dissipates and leaves behind calcium carbonate, which solidifies into a material known as travertine. The shifting of the underground hot springs and their flow rates creates the stair-like appearances such as Minerva Terrace and the other terraces at Mammoth Hot Springs. The Yellowstone Caldera is also unique because it occurs on a hotspot. A hotspot is a magma chamber that lies beneath the Earth's tectonic plates but does not occur on a divergent boundary or a convergent boundary. It is simply a buildup of magma in the lithosphere that leaves a trail of volcanic activity as tectonic plates drift over them. As shown in this first image, approximately 16 million years ago, the Yellowstone hotspot was underneath present-day Nevada before the North American plate shifted westward moving it to the present-day Wyoming. The Yellowstone Caldera now lies mostly within Wyoming based upon its most recent eruption. The first eruption was large enough to be in both Wyoming and Idaho. The second eruption was completely in Idaho. Yellowstone's most recent caldera is 30 by 45 miles wide. The national park surrounding the caldera encompasses 3,472 square miles. The border stretches between Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. Yellowstone is a resurgent caldera because there is a vast depression that formed from the first eruption, but the floor has also heaved upward many years later. Resurgent calderas are among the largest volcanic structures on Earth. In fact, they are so large that eruptions that form them rank amongst the greatest natural catastrophes. After the explosiveness of all three of Yellowstone's eruptions, large rhyolitic lava flows filled the caldera floor and surrounding terrain. Along with lava flows, there were also pyroclastic flows and many square miles of ash. While Yellowstone has erupted 3 times, the most recent eruption was 640,000 years ago. Yellowstone's first known eruption occurred 2.1 million years ago. This was the largest eruption that has occurred in the Yellowstone area, and the largest eruption known to man. As I stated earlier, this eruption created a caldera that extends into both Wyoming and Idaho. When this eruption occurred, it produced enough ash to coat 5,790 square miles. This ash moved as far away as Missouri. As shown in the image, Yellowstone's first eruption is the blue cube and ejected 600 cubic miles of material. This is estimated to be 6,000 times as large as the Mount St. Helens eruption that occurred in 1981. Yellowstone's second eruption was much smaller than the first and occurred 1.3 million years ago. This eruption was within the western edge of the first caldera in Idaho. It also ejected 67 cubic miles of material, shown by the green cube in the image. The most recent eruption from the Yellowstone caldera occurred 640,000 years ago. This created the most recent caldera of Yellowstone, and this caldera is completely contained within the state of Wyoming's borders. When Yellowstone erupted this time, it ejected 240 cubic miles of material. This amount, represented by the orange cube, is more than the second eruption, but considerably less than the first. Just like most active volcanic systems in the United States, Yellowstone is monitored by the United States Geological Survey, USGS. The USGS monitors Yellowstone through the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory. This observatory uses seismic stations, GPS receivers, and steam gauging stations. One of the responsibilities of the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory is providing a monthly activity report in the area of Yellowstone National Park. This is so that if it looks like Yellowstone might erupt again, the general public can be aware and possibly prepared. When I visited Yellowstone National Park with my family in 2011, one of my favorite features besides the ones already talked about today were the waterfalls. These falls are fed by the Yellowstone River, which runs through the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. The lower falls are able to be viewed from different viewpoints. The photo in the upper left corner shows the view from what is called Artist Point. It is known that many painters will take a photo from this view and then try to recreate it. It is also popular with photographers because when a photo is taken from this view, it looks like a painting. The photo in the lower right corner shows the view from Uncle Tom's Lookout Point. This provides a closer view of the lower falls. Yellowstone National Park is a fascinating place to visit and to learn more about the geothermal features that are prevalent in this area. While sometimes people fear that Yellowstone may erupt again, it is unlikely to happen in our lifetime. I hope everyone will one day get a chance to view Yellowstone's uniqueness and beauty.